It's 5 o'clock on a freezing winter morning in West Auckland, and the Sciarone family are getting up much earlier than usual.
Why are you spiders?
When the sun comes up in a couple of hours, the Sciarones will have been evacuated to a government-provided refuge on the other side of town. Viki Sciarone fears that if her children remain at home today, they'll become sick. What are the symptoms?
Coughing, headaches, sore throat, stomach aches, vomiting, diarrhoea. Nathan gets horrendous blood noses, nausea and extremely tired.
How's that for you?
It's awful having tired, sick children, especially because I'm infected myself, so it's really hard. Your blankets?
At least once a month in summer, less often in winter, up to 1,000 Aucklanders flee their homes to escape a threat from above. For the past 18 months, and at a cost exceeding $90 million, the New Zealand government has been using Fokker friendships, helicopters and air tractors to coat the western suburbs of Auckland with a pesticide called 4A48B. Residents say that such a prolonged aerial spray campaign over such a large urban population is unprecedented in the world.
When they come over and they're spraying, we feel violated. We're stuck in our houses. We know that we're going to get sick from the spray. It's like we have no rights anymore. We have not consented to this.
It is necessary to endure some discomfort and inconvenience in order to avoid the greater risks and the greater problems of introducing this potentially very serious new pest to our environment.
This is the story of an unusual war. A small country fending off a threat from an alien invader, and a civilian population caught in the firing line. The unlikely setting is West Auckland, and this is the enemy. The painted apple moth is an illegal immigrant which snuck in from Australia around 4 years ago.
The biggest concern is the threat to our planted Pinus radiata forests. These forests represent a very substantial investment by New Zealand, about $4 billion a year produced from them, so they're a major asset. We know, for example, in Tasmania, this species of insect is defoliated pine trees.
Entomologist Dr. John Clearwater was involved in a successful campaign to eradicate another Australian invader, the white-spotted tussock moth, back in 1996, and is now self-funding research into the painted apple moth.
I think it's a very serious threat. The biggest problem, of course, is that you never know exactly what a new species is going to do.
Let's go. In here, find it.
New Zealand has some of the strictest border control measures in the world. Every single item of mail entering the country is screened by humans and by dogs.
Usually around winter time, it's averages 5 or 6 seizures a day. Around the summertime, especially Christmas, it can be up to 30 seizures a day. And that varies from plant material, seeds, meat.
Okay. Hamburger is not allowed, okay?
As an isolated island country, dependent on primary industry, New Zealand is acutely aware that anything introduced from outside could wreak environmental and economic havoc.
Let's go.
But despite the best efforts of these hard-working beagles, alien species like the painted apple moth still slip through, often through the less well-protected seaports. When the moth was first found in a small area of West Auckland, the authorities assumed that because the female is flightless, it would not spread too far. However, one vital fact had been overlooked.
The young caterpillars have the ability to balloon. They produce a thread of silk, and that gives them the ability to float on the wind, much like young spiderlings.
Within a couple of years, it had infested 10,000 hectares of West Auckland. At this late stage, the government decided it had no choice left but to attack the moth with blanket aerial spraying. It's the day before spray day, and Sally Lewis is sealing her house against the pesticide drop.
I have been dumped on approximately 46 to 50 times. The first spray drop that they did was on Terhune Island, and like an idiot I saw them spraying. You know, I went out like everybody else would have done to see this so-called spraying, and within a couple of hours I was at my doctor's. I had breathed it in and was really, really sick, and it just burnt my lungs instantly. She could actually smell the spray in my mouth, and this has just been progressively getting worse ever since then.
Sally's been examined by government-appointed doctors.
Oh boy.
They've determined her reaction to the spray is severe enough to justify paying for her relocation to a motel during spray periods. 26 times over the last 18 months, Sally has packed up and moved out at government expense for 1 week at a time.
My life is just, well, it doesn't exist anymore. It revolves around spray. I can't make appointments in case it's a spray day. I can't go to barbecues or birthday parties or weddings if they're in the spray zone after they've sprayed, because I would be on the floor, gasping for breath, bleeding from the bowels, bleeding from the nose. Can you imagine that at a wedding?
Sally's reaction to the spray is not an isolated case. There are about 150 others with reactions severe enough that the government pays for their relocations during spray periods. Of the 150,000 West Aucklanders exposed to the spray, many have reported experiencing coughing, nausea, vomiting and diarrhoea. Those with asthma, eczema or pre-existing allergies can find their conditions worsen.
Put your hand up if you can tell me why we have to stay inside. Don't call out. Jake, why do we need to stay inside? It's spraying.
Robin Bourneville and Linda Durbin from the Glen Eden Kindergarten in West Auckland have developed a special routine for spray day.
The children arrive and we actually leave them inside until after, normally an hour, isn't it? Yeah. Until after they've sprayed. We stay indoors, we keep the windows closed.
Despite all the precautions, some children, like Maya Aparahama, do appear to suffer because of the spray.
It's got to the stage like it's hard to wash your hands. This is actually good. And that today, but it'll probably get worse now that they've sprayed again today.
I think it certainly was a threat to our forest, and I can understand that the economic situation of the country is very important, but you can't help but feel that the dollar value overrides what the importance for the people and their health.
The community backlash to the spray program has sometimes been extreme.
All the apocryphal stories of people threatening to shoot aircraft down or take painted apple moth out of the area. All of these things are just a symptom of the absolute frustration of a community not being involved in an eradication program.
Hannah Blackmore is a community health researcher. She's published a report into the moth eradication program in which she's highly critical of the government's handling of the whole affair.
It wasn't until 3 months after spraying had commenced that people suddenly started talking on the streets and outside schools and, hey, I've been really sick and headaches and skin rashes and hey, all the kids have had blood noses. What's going on here? Suddenly they're saying to the government, hey, hold on a minute, what are you doing to us?
The first protests were held after spraying started in 2002. Activists were angry the government had commenced aerial spraying despite their concerns. But Jim Sutton, Minister for Agriculture and Forestries and for Biosecurity, believes aerial spraying should have started sooner.
If there was a mistake made, it was taking too much notice of people who started mounting such a campaign before it was even underway, and if, as a result, delaying for some time what, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see was the inevitable decision to undertake widespread blanket spray.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know it's spray day. So you know where that means? I know you don't want to go in there, but that means you've got to go in the cupboard. Hey, put you in the closet. Give Mummy a kiss.
At the age of 57, Sally's life has become consumed with campaigning against the spraying.
All right. I was this little old lady that would step back if somebody barged in a queue and say, look, go for it. I've got all day. It's not a problem. Unfortunately, now, I don't know if I'd class myself as an activist or not, but I am so angry that the anger that you have is just, it's scary at times, because nobody wants to listen, and it's like wanting to put your hands around their necks and choking them and saying, and shaking, would somebody please listen to us?
What I would say is that we take people's concerns about health impacts seriously, and we treat people with respect. But I have not seen evidence that the spray itself causes any serious health effects.
It does seem paradoxical that the minister can say this, while at the same time his department pays for the relocation of people like Sally on the advice of government-appointed doctors.
It's not for me to say whether their symptoms are caused by the spray or caused by something else, or simply psychosomatic. If
So
there's symptoms, there's symptoms.
They're making it up?
No, I don't believe people are making it up. People who hear a helicopter and perhaps see a little spray drift on their windows, who then associate that with a headache, that doesn't actually prove that was the spray that caused the headache.
Is there any chance it could be psychosomatic?
No, and I underline that word, no. As I say, I used to play badminton, squash, tennis. My job was on a farm teaching young agricultural students farming. I had to do the hay baling, I had to shear sheep, I had to dag sheep, I had to milk cows. Now, if I was as fit as that, and now I can walk up a flight of stairs and nearly collapse gasping for breath at the top of the stairs, I really don't think the choice that I would prefer would be the one walking up the stairs and gasping for breath.
They have acknowledged it is clear that you have a significant difficulty in relation to the chemical exposure.
Suella Gray has folders full of medical documents that show her reaction to the spray is considerably more severe than a headache. She has a condition called multi-chemical sensitivity, which makes her reaction to the pesticide especially severe.
On a bad day, it would be very difficult for me to walk as far as the letterbox and collect the mail and get back up the stairs.
Suella and Sally are members of a support group for those affected by the spray.
This is the one beauty of this Painted Apple Moth program, isn't it?
It's one of the higher points.
That we have met a lot of really nice people. And
because her reaction is so severe, the government has relocated Suella to a suburb far away from the spray zone. The former senior health bureaucrat is now on an invalid's pension and says she misses her work terribly.
It was an amazing job and I felt very worthwhile, and for me that's important. And I've put 35 years into building my career to what it was before they started to spray. It may sound rather dramatic, but the truth is it has robbed me of my life. Really, it has.
Part of the problem for those with negative reactions to the spray is that the government has never made public the spray's contents, saying they are a trade secret. After some sleuthing by anti-spray activists, a list of ingredients has been obtained. A New Zealand television program recently asked Moth eradication chief Ian Gear whether this list is accurate.
That is a list that has been prepared by some of the opponents to the program. I can't comment on that, and nor will I.
They say there's benzoic acid, a preservative found in food which can cause asthma, diarrhoea, weakness and tremors.
Again, on a list that has been prepared.
They say there's propylene glycol, a chemical used in antifreeze and cosmetics. It can aggravate kidney disorders, cause possible liver damage and reproductive problems.
Again, on that same list.
They say there's potassium sorbate, sorbitol and hydrochloric acid.
And so we go on.
You'd be happy for your family to be sprayed?
I would be happy for my children to be sprayed. I would be happy if this product was being applied over my own residence, yes.
We still cannot have any assessment of the impact of these sprays, and particularly inhaling these sprays, because to do so, it's catch-22. They can neither confirm nor deny that these are ingredients in there.
Nobody I spoke to disputed the fact that the painted apple moth needs to be eradicated, or that the government faces a real dilemma. But many feel that the situation was mishandled so severely in the early days that the problem could now be unsolvable. Alternatives to aerial spraying are currently being investigated, but none of them are viable at this stage.
I think the government's now got themselves into a huge fix because they've said this will be eradicated at all cost. And at 90 million minimum, it is a huge cost. But at the beginning of all of this, somehow it's lost that the question of the principle that you don't spray people.
It's 2 days after the most recent spray, and Sally was staying in a government-provided motel.
Sally, what are you doing here?
Well, Moth aren't relocating me longer than 48 hours anymore, and I daren't go back home because of the reaction I have. So when they do this to me, I have to come and live in a tent.
I am seriously thinking I will have to move right out of Auckland. This is what upsets me, is the fact that I've got family in Auckland. I've got all my friends in Auckland. I'm not a young chick anymore. You know, at my age it's very, very difficult. But it would be difficult for anybody. I mean, why should we be shunted out of our homes? This is not our choice. We are having this dumped on us without our consent.
Sally has become another victim in New Zealand's war against the painted apple moth.
So getting rid of it is worth the human collateral?
Yes, it is, and I think that for the overwhelming majority of West Aucklanders, they accept this. I'm grateful for their patience and forbearance, and I think that the inconvenience and the occasional discomfort that they've endured is, on behalf of all New Zealanders, is well worthwhile.
I don't personally want compensation, no. I think if I sat 25 of people in a row and said, do you want compensation? There might be 3 that would say, yes, I do. The others just say, no, we want this just to stop.